All right, welcome back. I just want to talk about a couple personnel changes that were made past 2 days. Um, Partly because they're kind of related, but not really. So the Flyers, Elaine Vigneault is out as head coach of the Flyers. Mike Yeo is in. Yeo is he was notably the head coach for the Minnesota Wild for a number of years. Then went to St. Louis as an assistant until I believe Hitchcock retired, and then Yo took over as the head coach. And now he's in Philadelphia. So I guess I want to talk about that a little bit more. Yo is an interesting choice of a coach. Some of his decision making can be questionable behind the bench, but I think he's learned a lot since his Minnesota Wild days. Actually, quite a bit. He's kind of grown in that capacity, and good for him. But he's definitely a player's coach. He can be hard on the players, but he'll be right in the trenches with the players. He'll do a lot of team bonding activities and stuff, and I think that'll really help out the Flyers and their chemistry a bit. I don't know how effective Yo will be in turning this club around because they've been on a recent kind of a rough streak, but we'll see. It's an intriguing choice. We'll see what happens. But the reason they're both the Flyers and the Canucks are on the board is because Elaine Vigneault is kind of the connector in that. Vigneault was the longtime Canucks coach, and he had some ups and he had some downs. He was the coach that brought the Canucks to the 2011 Stanley Cup Finals against the Bruins. I personally am not a fan of Elaine Vigneault. I'm not a big fan of the way he coaches. I feel like he likes his players to live a little bit on the edge, maybe try to get away with a little more than the average coach, which I don't enjoy. But whenever he seems to be behind the bench of a team, the team typically adjusts to play that way. And then when he's gone, all of a sudden they don't play that way anymore. So it's a little suspect. But whatever, Vigneault's out, Yo's in. The Canucks cleaned house finally because they really needed to. It's a lost season at this point. I'd be utterly shocked if they make the playoffs. They could. They have the talent to, but they'd have to go on some ridiculous run to end the season, and it might be a little far-fetched to entertain that thought this year. So Travis Green and Jim Benning, the coach and the GM respectively, were fired. Benning's been there since 2014. Travis Green not as long as 2014. I don't remember when he came on board. But they definitely needed a change. They needed a coaching change because the locker room's in turmoil. Benning's already fired a coach in his tenure, and he's made some questionable choices, taking on the Oliver Ekman-Larsson contract and spending to the cap and possibly being one of the worst teams in the NHL right now. So it's a much needed and refreshing change for the organization that's in absolute turmoil. I am not a Canucks fan by any means, but it's hard to watch, even from afar. Yeah. Yeah, you want Vancouver to at least be competitive and put together a team. They have a passionate and dedicated fan base, and though I don't necessarily associate with the fan base, it's you got to give them something to cheer for. It's been a long time. 2011 was a good run, but it's just they need to get back into the competitive way. There's too much passion and love for the game in Vancouver to not have a competitive team for multiple years in a row. They've been around for over 50 years now, and 52 years. They've never had a Stanley Cup. They've had some brutal decades. I kind of feel for the fan base. You want to see them do something, or at the very least be competitive. Talking to you Canucks fans, as a Bruins fan, I'm hoping the team turns it around. I'm not going to root for the Canucks, but at the same time, it'd be nice to see them go on a run and make the playoffs in like maybe next year at the earliest. But there's a couple other. Let's get back on track. So they also fired Weisenbrod and Baumgartner. That kind of just it's Benning's right hand man and the assistant coach, and it's kind of is necessary. If you're going to fire Green and Benning, you got to fire their right hand men. Woo. But the questionable decision that was made was they brought in Bruce Boudreau as the new head coach. I love Bruce Boudreau. He's a great guy. He was a great coach for a long time in the National Hockey League. He came to Minnesota and all this, and he's a great players coach and people coach, but it just his coaching ability his coaching peak may be well behind him. I don't necessarily think he's the Dusty Baker of the NHL. I love Bruce. It's hard to it's hard to not cheer for him, but as a Wild fan, and it's my other team. I cheer for the Bruins and the Wild, in case you're wondering. With Boudreau behind the bench, it was absolutely brutal to watch. It was just brutal. They brought in Dean Edvinson, who's now their current coach, and just immediately the team turned into a winning team, and all of a sudden they're like one of the best teams in the National Hockey League a couple of years later. Partly, sure, due to Kirill Kaprizov, but Dean Edvinson does a lot for that team that Bruce Boudreau didn't necessarily do in terms of line changes, who's playing with who, matchups, pulling the goal. When do you pull the goalie? By 2 goals, you pull the goalie with at least 2 minutes left. Whereas Bruce Boudreau, we're down 2 goals, there's 30 seconds left, better pull the goalie. Like, okay. I don't know if that's necessarily gonna help the Canucks in the long run, or necessarily help them make a run for the playoffs this year or next year. I don't know if that's the right fit for that team, but at this point in the Canucks' journey through the 2021-22 season, it's it's a tire fire, for lack of a better term. Their locker rooms, and it's just an absolute chaos. There's a lot of division. There's a lot of blame. There's a lot of underperforming stars. There's absolutely no chemistry. So any change is welcome at that point, and I think Bruce is a capable coach to kind of get that under wraps and corral that chaos and definitely eke out a few more wins than Travis Green would have. We'll see. I don't necessarily think Bruce is the long-term answer. As in Philadelphia, I'm not sure if Mike Yeo is the long-term answer, but for the interim, I think they're both decent choices. Very different scenarios, though. The Flyers aren't in the state that the Canucks are in. It's just, I don't know. Again, it's just an absolute tire fire in Vancouver, and you have to feel for their fans at this point. Hopefully Bruce can pull it together and redeem himself on the coaching scale and be a legitimately great head coach behind the bench like he was. But I'll believe it when I see it. I'm not quite sold on that, but at the same time, I don't hate it because it's welcomed, and he can bring a lot to that atmosphere and that locker room that can really bring a little bit of change and fix a lot of the issues that are ongoing behind the scenes. Will that translate to wins? Maybe not, maybe a few, but overall, any change is more than welcome in Vancouver. Good for Bruce. Again, I like Bruce. He's a great guy. I'd grab all the beer with him. He knows a lot about hockey. I don't know how well he's adjusted to the game since it's transitioned over the last few decades, but again, it's a welcome change in both respective clubs, and we'll see what happens with that. Little side thing, Scott Walker, yeah, Walken, is the new assistant coach in Vancouver as well, and I like him. I think that'll help quite a bit, but we'll see. A little more discussion on, or a little more, I don't want to call it news, rumor news for the Canucks. They're allegedly very interested in Marc Bergevin, the former Canadiens general manager. Again, that's not the move you want to see the Canucks make. I don't really know Bergevin. I don't know if, on a personal level, I haven't determined if I like him or I dislike him. But from a hockey perspective, I think some of the moves he's made have been highly questionable. He's definitely made some great moves, but some of the other moves he's made have been questionable. The Canucks need someone with experience. There's no question about that. Bergevin has the experience. I don't know how well of a fit he would be in Vancouver, and if that would, I don't think that would be the right choice for Vancouver at this point in their do I say the R word, the rebuild? Oh no, I said rebuild in Vancouver, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm hoping, for the sake of the city of Vancouver, that they find someone better than Bergevin, but we'll see. Let me know what you guys think. Could be a little heated if people watch this video and there gets to be comments. I don't like Alain Vigneault as a coach. I don't care for him. The Canucks are in turmoil. I don't like the move of having Bruce Boudreau as your long-term coach in the interim. Sure, he's a great guy. Sure, he might be, his career in coaching probably has passed. Do you guys want Bergevin to be the GM? As you can tell, I personally do not. By the way, I just said that, so my apologies. But we'll see. Curious to see what happens. It's kind of an exciting time in the hockey world if you're not a fan of these teams. It's fun to see these changes from afar. And it's probably welcomed in some of these areas that these changes are coming. The Canucks have been well overdue. Vigneault, I thought last year there were a few instances where he made some questionable decisions, so I'm glad to see he's not in Philadelphia anymore. I think he was not the right answer for that organization. But I'm not discrediting hiring him either. I totally get why they hired him. I didn't think it was a bad move at the time. But these changes for both teams have definitely been needed. I personally think. What you guys think? Let me know what you guys think is coming next, or who you think is going to be the GM of the Canucks. And dude, let's have some discussion. I love it. All right, that's all for this. Thanks for watching, guys.